So I just discovered that you can only live stream to one thing at a time. So no Facebook. Okay, we are now live streaming to the I Am Force YouTube page. So I just discovered that you can only live stream to one thing at a time. To anyone who's joining us on YouTube Live, we're about to go live in about a minute. Just waiting to go live on Zoom. Okay, folks, I'm going to start the webinar on Zoom in 2 seconds. Hello, everyone who's joining us so far. We're going to start this in about 4 minutes. I'm just going to let people join us slowly. So please get comfortable. We're going to start in 4 minutes. And thank you for joining us. We're going to show our next slide. We're going to show you where you are, just to make sure you're all in the room you're supposed to be. And if you want to start us off by sharing where you're joining us from. So those of you in the audience, if you want to tell us where you're joining us from, that'd be wonderful. So use the chat, and if you can, please share with all attendees, so not just panelists. So go into your chat settings and click on all attendees so we can all see where you're from. East Vancouver, Redwood City, California, awesome. Someone from Vancouver. That's great. Hi, Emma. Powell River. Toronto, Burnaby, Surrey. All right. So those of you who are sharing in the chat, just quick reminder: if you want to share, change your settings on the chat so that you're sending chats to panelists and attendees. Take a second now to change that so that everyone can see where you're from and not just the panelists. Some Seattle. Oh, nice. Lake Country, BC. Wonderful. Ottawa. Someone's from Ottawa as well. Colin Lake, Alberta. Great. New West. Upon unceded Kwayakwat territory. We're going to start in 3 more minutes, just letting people join. We have 45 participants so far. From Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Wow. Victor, that's incredible. Victor, how did you find out about this event? Victor, can you change your settings so that panelists and attendees can read your chats if you want? That'd be great. Just a blue button on the chat. Yep, that's okay, Victor. We can all see it now. Yeah, we'd love to know how you all found out about this event and where you're joining us from. So if you can tell us if you found out about it through Facebook or through the Vancouver Public Library's website or another website, that'd be awesome. We're going to start in 2 more minutes. New York, okay. Lenapehoking territory. Adina, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. You heard about it from Kayla, okay. Well, I think we're about ready to start this event. I'm gonna switch on so that you can all see my face. It's not just some faceless voice here. Great, thank you for sharing, Victor. Okay, everyone, here I am. Nice to meet you all. My name is Jorge Amigo. I'm the head of cultural programming for the Vancouver Public Library, and I'm going to be your host for tonight. Now, before we begin, I have a quick note about the chat, which I already told you, but for those of us who are just joining, I want to make sure everyone can see you on the chat and we can feel your presence. So just note that the default setting on Zoom is that your chats are only visible to panelists. So let's take a second now to make sure that your chat settings are set to panelists and attendees. And that way, everyone is going to be able to see your comments and feel more connected. So take a second now, click on the blue drop-down that says panelists, and just change it to panelists and attendees. Okay, so my colleague Candy is managing the chat in the background, so they'll be answering questions and posting links. So please feel free to say hi and thank you to Candy. Now, tonight's event is very special because we programmed this together with the IM4 lab, which is a technology lab out of Emily Carr University. And it was founded by a group of 4 Indigenous matriarchs with the goal to indigenize immersive technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality, and to train Indigenous peoples in these new mediums. And so, before we begin, we're going to play a land acknowledgement that IM4 has kindly put together for today, featuring Elder Larry Grant from the Musqueam Nation, Dennis Joseph from the Squamish Nation, and Rochelle George from Tsleil-Waututh. So Candy's going to start playing that video now.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here at the Emily Carr Vancouver Mural Festival opening, and want to say a few words of welcome. Si siya sa konasquich I tenitin masquem. Tlaak sa siawenes ke planoch I chwaltimaltoch. Cos hilachtoch de chinaal I mich netten cos for to des aanstammoch het gemasquem. Sta konas siawenes ke planoch zette something need to swallow I hilachstala I ziatala. Tamokalap cos for to Tanawaya. I want to say thank you to Emily Carr and the Vancouver Mural Festival for having me today to do the land acknowledgement. My name is Ayetlak from the Musqueam First Nation, and our ancestor Kepalanach was the one to greet the first ships to arrive here off our shores, and we are the people that have lived here on this delta for thousands and thousands of years. And today, and during the festival, the places that you walk, many of those places were waterways. But also, where you are walking, you're walking in the footsteps of all our ancestors. And for you to be reminded that our people were here long before Confederation, and we still are welcoming people. And I would like to say that again. Kalet Quantitia Tala, Taswallop, Hui Namat, Tanawale, Hi Tapewa Siam Nasiaya, Siatham. Thank you very much. Hi, Chika.
Alciam and Siaya, Qualtanat, Konasqui, Talitsin, Ach Slaatnuts, Taantha, Sawatuth, Squamish. Thank you, good people. My name is Qualtanat. My English name is Rachel George, and I am from the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish Nation, which is in North Vancouver. I swallowins. I have good feeling in my heart today, and I'd like to welcome you to the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And I'd like to sing a song from my family's dance group, Children of Takaya, and it is our welcoming song, and it's called the Swan Song. Thank you, and I would just like to leave you with a few words from this book of poetry by my great-grandfather, Chieftain George. Keep a few embers from the fire that used to burn in your village. Someday go back, so all can gather again and rekindle a new flame for a new life in a changed world. And I just hope that helps lift your spirits today. Thank you, Haichika, and have a good day.
O siam tanoia, hoichach chanak che siam, and hat tisha ochel meo, ma kutsi kuts nachum chodes and stomo, kuch talqui and sta, and hat and masquium, slewatooth and scopemesh. Good day, everybody. Quechtal is my ancestral name. I'm from the Squamish Nation. I'm grateful and thankful to welcome you to the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples. On behalf of our Siams, our leadership, our matriarchs, our patriarchs, welcome to each and every one of you, and wishing you well in these challenging times and your creativity. I want to wish you well in that as well. The beautiful work that you're doing and will be doing throughout your life is going to carry us a long ways. Tumakwitsikutstachum and hat. Hoichuch. Tumakwitsikutstachum. Weichachyo and hat. Thanking you all once again. Grateful. All be careful now. Hoichian. Hoichuch.
Thank you again to IM4 for sharing that beautiful land acknowledgement video. Now, tonight's event is part of Vancouver Mural Festival's Winter Arts, which is an augmented reality exhibition happening across the city right now until February 28th. So it's transforming public spaces into an interactive open air gallery. Now, I want to do a quick poll here. Has anyone in the audience already seen these works around? I see some of you have. It's wonderful. Okay. And so we're going to share a link just so you can read more about it and see what it's all about. So my colleague Candy is going to share a link to the Mural Festival's exhibition. And I want to thank the team at Vancouver Mural Festival for partnering with VPL to create programming around this exhibition. As you may have seen in the intro slides, there's one more event tomorrow, and my colleague Candy again is going to add the link to that. So it's tomorrow at noon. So let's get this party started. Here's how the event's going to work. First, we're going to enjoy a brief DJ set. So feel free to crank up your computer volumes and get ready to dance for a little bit in your living rooms. Then after the DJ set, we're going to hear a conversation with artists from the IM4 lab. And then we're going to take some audience questions. And then at the end, we're going to close with another brief DJ set. So, you can all end the night moving your bodies. So without further ado, please sit back and enjoy a DJ set from DJ Wolfcaller.
Yo, what's up? I am Thor. My name is DJ Wolfcaller. Just want to give a huge shout out to Drumbeat Entertainment for having me here. I only got 15 minutes with you guys, so let's do this.
Ooh, that was awesome. So that was DJ Wolfcaller for everyone who's curious. And now I'm going to ask C's Wise to join me on stage. Hi, C's.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So C's is a media. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
C's is a media artist from the Squamish Nation with close to 25 years of experience in the field. She has produced various formats of media art, as well as being a mentor in this field for close to 15 years. In 2010, C's received the City of Vancouver's Mayor's Arts Award for film and new media. So thank you so much for being here, C's.
Thank you.
And now I want to ask Casey Coyson and Kyla Simpson to join us on stage. Hi, Kayla. Hi, Casey. C's, the floor is all yours. I'm going to disappear and all you.
Okay. Hatsquile ech tanoia, toits tanat quien shaman, cis quien sna, an wanoxton squallowin, an hash and squallowin titsits. So welcome. Also, I am Squamish and Stalo. Those are my Coast Salish roots, also Hawaiian and Swiss. And one of the matriarchs of the Indigenous Matriarchs 4, and also one of the artists in this beautiful festival. So I'm so excited to meet Kayla for the first time, and Casey, who I've met a bunch of times. We've actually invited him before, and we have another list of artists that I'm going to go through. But to begin with, I'd like to introduce our two panelists that are here. And so Kayla Simpson. Kayla is a Cree Métis artist from Treaty 8 in territory in Northern Alberta. And her family ties in Sawridge Cree Nation and Big Stone Cree Nation. Bibi Esquia symbolizes her Cree name. Baby woman, gifted from Nokum, her grandmother, at birth, and the intention that she'd be a healer. Bibi Esquia uses art to share good medicine with the world, manifesting light, healing, and hope for a future that is matriarchal again. Oho, Osiam. Kyla Bella Rose, Bibi Esquia graduated from the University of Calgary with a fine arts degree in 2020 and chooses art as her storytelling medium and encourages young generations to keep the Indigenous storytelling and arts movement as strong as possible, as it will heal the earth. So welcome to the virtual space of the Coast Salish people here. We welcome you with big open arms, big matriarchal arms. So good to meet you. And I will introduce Casey now. And Casey is an international Clicho Dene interdisciplinary artist from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. And he works with various mediums to communicate how culture and technology coincide together alongside the political, economic, and environmental challenges of the world. A portion of his large-scale installation work utilizes earth materials to evoke the idea of nature reclaiming architectural space, inspired by sci-fi and Indigenous futurisms. Koiskan implements, I'm doing this on my phone and it keeps trying to change things. Koiskan implements various techniques of interactivity, audio, video, VR, 360, XR, and the engagement of the bodily senses within his creations. So thank you. Also, matriarchal arms and big ups. Thank you for being here in our virtual Coast Salish space. It's good to have you both. So I want to acknowledge 3 artists who could not join the webinar tonight. And Tracy Kim Bono, who is Seal. I won't give their bios because I think they're on they're on our websites and everything. And Zachary George, who is Tsleil-Waututh. And finally, Crystal Sparrow, who is Fomathguiam. And we're going to show a link to Crystal's interview that we did because she couldn't make it tonight, but was able to do a virtual interview with us. So Candy will be showing the link to that in the chat room. So yeah, I am very excited about our evening tonight and getting to share both of your beautiful voices to go with your works. And I still have yet to get to both of your works. I got to see a few of them yesterday and I was like, wow, it's a lot of walking in between, but it's really good. And it's just super noisy. But the fantastic thing about AR is that, you know, you get pretty immersed in interacting with your device. You're kind of like this out there. You're moving around and you're looking at people, but you're seeing these beautiful works come to life from the QR codes on the booths, and you get a bit of a shot, an image of what you might be seeing. So on a physical scale, that's what people will see when they come up to it. And of course, there's bio of each of the artists and a bit of a background story, a little artist statement on the works. So I'm very excited to hear from both of you. And so Kayla, I'd love to have you start off and share. I think you have some images to share as well, but go ahead and please share your beautiful talent with us. I'm so excited about your work.
Well, thank you for the amazing introduction, Sis. Tanse Bebesta Square Nitsagasoin Wapisco Chenia. So hello, my English name's Kayla Belrose Simpson. Got a lot of names going on. And then my artist name and my Cree name is Bibi Esqueo, so baby woman. And I am a baby to AR, not gonna lie. But I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this festival and to share my work with the world. It definitely warms my heart a lot. So, and I also just want to give thanks to everyone who is here listening to us speak tonight. Sending good thoughts forward. And I also just want to acknowledge the elder and all the speakers who gave a land acknowledgement in the beginning. I'm really grateful to share work on unceded territory, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish territory. It's my first time sharing, my work as a Cree Esqueo, Cree woman artist. So it's really exciting. I guess I'll just share a little bit about my practice. I know Cease already shared a lot in the intro, but a lot of my work is really grounding and healing for me, especially as a young woman who's mixed, who is grew up in an urban environment. Art has been a way for me to find my roots, to feel grounded, and to really bring to life the teachings of Nukum, like my grandmother, who gave me that name, Baby Woman. And so she was the one who actually like painted a lot around me when I was young. And so she was my inspiration to be creative and to use that as an outlet and a coping skill to heal and to, I guess, share that spirit with the world, because a lot of my work is really grounded through my own spirituality. And so a lot of the times when I create things, I'm not really like thinking about it at all. Like it's almost like a meditation. It just flows through me, and it's whatever comes to me in the moment. And so sometimes I don't even really think about like what it necessarily means, and I don't even understand it until later on. I'm like, oh, that's what that painting meant. It just kind of came out of me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing more of my practice. I guess I can share my screen. I'll share some works here real quick. So, okay. Don't mind me, I'm a little, can you see my screen? Oh, wait, no, I can't. Okay, there we go. Present. So I most recently got into doing more digital art. My medium is usually within beading, photography, painting, even sculpture. I'm kind of like a multidisciplinary artist. So I recently got into digital art because my sister, Alana Bluebird, recently wrote a book, a children's poetry book. And so she asked me to illustrate that book. So shout out Alana Bluebird. So I illustrated her book, The Light Within, and it's actually coming out this upcoming month. So this was the cover page, and then this is another page within it. And so, yeah, it's really about, like, it's a poem about spirit, and it's called The Light Within. And so this book, it was really like grounding for me to think about, young kids, and sometimes you can feel so disconnected to Mother Earth, to each other as human beings. We can feel disconnected to just our purpose and sense of self in the world. And so to me, art is a way to share that message that we are spiritual beings living a human experience. And so that's how this piece came to be. This is actually Alana, the artist herself, who, or the poet who wrote the book. So I did a maternity shoot with her last year. And from those photographs, I used the photograph that I took of her, and then I illustrated her when she was pregnant with her daughter, Lindy, who's not even 1 year old now. She's super cute. So I illustrated her, and then what I've been taught through like Esqueoc teachings, women teachings, is that, women are life givers. Women are portals to the spirit world. And so when I was creating this page, it was for the book originally, and then I got it submitted with the Vancouver Mural Festival. And the intention of this page was to show the courage of women and the sacrifice they make to bring in these unborn spirits into this world, and the courage that takes to, basically sacrifice your body. And it's a beautiful process into motherhood. And so I really wanted to honor Alana and her journey into motherhood, her first pregnancy. And so this is really just showing how, you know, she's that like sacred portal. And it was crazy because when I did this piece, bears just came to me because she talked about courage within the lines of that book, saying, I am the courage. And so that's what I named the piece after. And so when I think of courage, I think of bears, because bears are animals, like they teach us that like you're not going to mess around with a baby bear because you know you'll get mama bear's going to mess you up, right? But like mama bears, they have the wisdom to and the courage to protect their young at any cost. And so to me, I think about motherhood. I think about a lot of these Indigenous mothers who are you know, revitalizing their languages, healing, helping their families, healing, from traumas. And it takes a lot of courage. And so the bear was something that just came to me in the process of creating this piece. And then it was crazy because a month after I finished this piece, she went to ceremony with her baby after her baby was born, and her baby got her name, and it was actually Strong Bear Woman, which was like, you know, I didn't know it made it a month before. So just all the synchronicities, everything just kind of came together, and it was such a beautiful, just a beautiful message, you know, that our art really is, it's storytelling from our ancestors. When you're in that space to let it flow through you, you can really get a lot of that knowledge from your ancestral memory, and just so your spirit guides that are around you. And so that's some background to this piece. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let Casey share too. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, no, that was great. Like, you actually, I put on a timer just to see, and you spoke for about 8 minutes. So I think that's really amazing how much she shared in that short time, and powerful stories. Wow. It's really incredible when women are very connected to their work together, and you two working on this really brought those heart lines together, and the magic just shows you the, you know, the ancestors were telling you things that you didn't know, and they presented themselves. So really big grateful thank yous. Oichuch. We say Chenkwen Tomi Wit, which means really good work, really honorable work. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what Casey has to share. You're muted somehow, Casey. Oh, I don't know how that happened. Oh, there. It looked like you weren't. Has somebody else muted him? Has the moderators? Jorge, can we get some technical support? Casey was, looked like he was unmuted, but wasn't. Let's see. How are you doing now?
1 sec. Casey, can you keep talking so we can see troubleshoot it here? You are not muted on my end. I have a question. Casey, can you leave the Zoom and then come back through the same link? Maybe that'll fix it. That's the beauty of these technologies. They're not flawless.
Yeah, and then maybe Kayla, if you want to, is there anything else you wanted to add? Well, you have a couple minutes to add any more.
Sure.
Maybe you.
My Nukam calls me Kayla talks a lot, so I can go on for days if you want me to. Just kidding.
And
could you type in now?
Yeah, and can you type in the name of your book into the chat for everybody? A few people were asking about it.
For sure.
Sweet. Okay. How are you doing, Casey? Ah, there's no sound.
It was just working. It was working before.
Is it, what's your audio situation at home? Do you have, is it on your laptop, or wondering why it's not working? Is that you typing or somebody else?
That would be me.
Okay, how about if you mute, Kayla, and then yeah, we'll see if. This is horrible. If you're on a Mac, okay, Natalia has some information to help with this. You can go to settings and check the audio on the Mac. With all the times we have to mute, then we often get messed up in the last part. Still, oh, I hear something.
Check, check, check.
Yes. Yay. All right, I'm gonna leave it to you, and I'm gonna just gonna mute myself so you can talk. And
okay, I just had to unplug and plug back in my headphones, I guess. Okay, so a huge thank you and masicho for having me involved in this festival and to be able to create artwork in this way, especially throughout a pandemic, and for us to be able to show our artworks in and around Vancouver. So I'll take you through a bit of the process of the piece. So my piece is called Caribou 3020, and it's basically imagining what the caribou might look like in the future. So originally I created a piece. It was kind of like a concept sketch within a program called Tiltbrush. It's like a virtual reality painting kind of program. And I'm just gonna make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay, good. So the concept that I made in Tiltbrush was called Migration 2491, and it was all about how caribou can safely migrate in the future to their breeding, grazing grounds and that sort of thing, because there's such an influx of infrastructure with like mining camps and all that sort of thing happening within the Northwest Territories and across the span of the Arctic in general. And it really disrupts the migration patterns. So numbers of the caribou fluctuate every year. So I created this piece within Tiltbrush, kind of like a low poly caribou. And so this is more of like the shape and scale of this caribou is more mimicking an actual caribou and kind of like what it would look like and that sort of thing. So what I did was I took the base model of this and imported it into Adobe Medium, which is another virtual reality art program, but Adobe Medium is more virtual clay and sculpting and that sort of thing. So I imported it into Medium and converted it to clay, smoothed it all out, and then just began experimenting with it and really like elongating the antlers and kind of just letting my mind sort of wander a little bit in terms of its composition. Right now, like the body still looks like a conventional caribou. So I'm just bringing you through like all of the process, the development and the evolution of Caribou 3020. So you see here, like the antlers are starting to connect to each other, which they don't really do in the real world, but I figured like through genetic mutation and over 1,000 years that they could kind of translate into this kind of look. So right now the size of the antlers are considerably bigger than the body. So I had to kind of work the body in a certain way that would theoretically compensate for that as well. So this was kind of starting the process of implementing the eyes. I added an additional eye in the middle of its forehead, so it was able to increase its visibility and that sort of thing. At this point, I added another set of legs. So it has 6 legs now to theoretically be able to navigate better through the harsh Arctic climate and the snow and that sort of thing. And I've implemented these, I consider them like energy orbs, and basically they house parts of their DNA. So they're able to share it with other caribou and increase their chance of conception and to be able to reproduce that much easier in the future, so that the caribou are saved and they can increase their numbers, that sort of thing. So this is around the ending steps of the creation within Adobe Medium specifically. And then I brought that model and imported it into Blender, where I did a lot of the texturing and putting in more of an effective glow with the orbs and the hooves and the eyes and that sort of thing. So this is kind of like a high poly, mid poly model of the caribou, and more of a realistic look of my concept and vision. After this, I continued to develop this piece in Blender to make it more of a landscape, so that you can kind of like visualize what it would look like within this landscape in general. And within this process, I also allowed myself to experiment as well. So there was at one point, I created the antlers, gave them this texture that was very like liquid based and glass based. I really enjoyed the refraction of the antlers and how they reflected the orbs and that sort of thing. But it wasn't exactly what I wanted to go for. I kind of just like saved it, hid it within a layer so that I can utilize it again in the future. So these are more of the full concept and vision of Caribou 3020, which I've posted them online to my social media. Feel free to go and check them out in higher detail if you choose. This just gives you a better idea as to kind of like the full idea that I was going for. At this point, I was adding in some hair into the caribou to give it more of a realistic look in that regard. A little bit more of a vantage point to the energy orbs and the antlers themselves, as well as the hooves. A lot of people really seem to like this picture because it gives like a detailed view of like what the glowing kind of hooves look like and that sort of thing. And then kind of a general idea of what the landscape looks like. So it's like a futuristic kind of city that's kind of ran its course, and it's almost like a ghost city now. And there's also a nod towards the Tlicho flag within this design, and that's where the design of the teepee comes from. And then it was time to work it into Spark AR. This is the first time that I've used this software before, so it was really interesting. Also, to learn the limitations of it as well. We were given a maximum triangle count of 150,000 triangles, which may seem like a lot, but within a virtual space, in a 3D space, it's kind of on the lower end. So the decimation process of reducing that polygon count and triangle count was somewhat of a challenge, but it was also really beneficial to learn kind of how the program works itself, and how I can kind of continue to implement this idea within the space. So now within the piece itself, it's basically just the caribou in kind of like a lower poly sort of form with a bit of the atmospheric effects, like there's a fog on the ground, and I implemented some snow falling and that sort of thing. So I really tried to activate more of the space as well within the creation, as opposed to just the piece itself. But overall, it was a really fun experience. Honestly, kind of frustrating at times, as it is when you're learning a new piece of software. But I'm really excited to move forward with AR and to continue to develop ideas in this way.
Wow, I'm just so blown away by both of your works. And Casey, that is such a fantastic eye into the future of what caribou are going to look like and how they morph. You know, we think about how the world will change. So you've really looked at evolution in different ways, not only of the caribou themselves and how they've had to adapt, but also how the city landscape and cultural elements bring that out. And Kayla, your works are just so breathtaking. The flowers that represent the plants, which are, you know, the second oldest beings on the planet. There are grandmothers, so another matriarchal line there flowing. And I just, I guess I'd really like to hear you two maybe even share a little bit more on what got you into this work, and Because Casey, I know a bit more about your practice and that you've done sculpture, installations and such, but maybe you both can share for a couple minutes each about what led you into futurisms.
You can go ahead, Kayla.
All right. So I feel like, yeah, I'm still an emerging artist. I'm finding my voice and my style. And I like to really explore in a lot of different mediums. I find that my mood kind of chooses what I'm working with, if it's painting or photography or illustration. But yeah, I'm definitely, a lot of my practice is really grounded in, the reclaiming of space through that matriarchal lens. So when I think about Indigenous futurism, I think about restoring that balance on Earth. And I really do think about that prophecy, that it was a prophecy from Louis Riel that, it'll be artists who give us our spirits back. And so I see that today. I feel like that prophecy is starting to happen, like even just walking around Vancouver and seeing these AR pieces that have so much story within them, it makes me hopeful that, the arts can really bring human beings together to create a better future for our future generations. And so, yeah, I'm definitely still learning a lot about AR and using the different technologies. So I first did, like, a lot of my process was through Procreate. And then I actually collaborated with Tim through IM4. And so Tim assisted me in like animating the piece. And so I'm really grateful for Tim. Shout out. Yeah. So I'm definitely, again, a baby woman learning in baby steps into these technologies. I'm very hands-on artist. But it makes me really excited, especially thinking about, Indigenous futurism and really reclaiming and decolonizing these urban spaces where Indigenous people have not felt welcomed and have, felt like, yeah, like it's, you don't belong in the city, but really the city is on Indigenous land. Yeah. And so I'm really interested in how the arts really reclaims that space as Indigenous, as like back to the roots of that live under that city, connecting those roots. And so, even through AR, having those immersive experiences, I think really shares a story of resiliency. Like, we're still here being creative, sharing our stories, even through genocide and through so much trauma, right? And it's really empowering to see Indigenous artists rise today. It's really empowering. And I'm really excited, especially for IM4. I see how many mentorship workshops you guys do with the youth. And to me, like, the youth are the future, like, we got to really support our younger generations and mentor them. So for me as an artist, I'm just really all about sharing that space with other artists and yeah, just sharing my truth through my work. And I'm all about community over competition. So how can we share this network? How can we support one another's work? Because so many of us have adopted a lot of that individualistic perspective of the world from, colonization. And so how can we cleanse that from our beings to be more communal again and to help one another? And I think the arts really shows us a vision of what the future can look like. Because you think about every single time there's a shift within our societies as human beings, it's the artists leading the way. because they're the ones who manifest that vision. And right now, Indigenous art is really leading the way of the future, and it's really exciting. And so I think these immersive technologies are just gonna keep growing, especially when I see, the language revitalization programs where people are using even VR to learn their language with elders. Like when you mix our Indigenous knowledge systems with technology, it's pretty amazing what can happen. So I'm pretty excited to see how this grows over the years, and I'm just really grateful to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, how about you, Casey? Maybe talk a bit about what your step into futurism's looked like for you, and when about that happened.
Well, I've always been inspired by sci-fi. Like as a kid, growing up watching, the Aliens, movies and that sort of thing. That was a huge inspiration for me. And I definitely understand that H.R. Geiger probably had a lot of influence subconsciously for me, like especially leading into my works now. Installation works mostly, because some people look at them and they're like, it's this interesting mix of like beauty and like haunting, and I guess that's, what H.R. Geiger is all about. But I just kind of kept with that notion. I always allowed myself to be inspired by sci-fi and the future, as well as learning more about my own culture, especially later on in life, because I left Yellowknife at a very young age and kind of returned intermittently throughout my life. So technology has played a huge part in learning more about my culture and exploring these huge arrays of options as to how I can go about that. And I'm a firm believer that technology and culture within society grow together, as opposed to like being compatible forces. So for me, when I started to get into VR especially, that's when that notion really started to take off, because right when I started working in VR, first introduced to Tilt Brush, I immediately started making works that were inspired by northern legends and stories and that sort of thing. A lot of animals kind of made in this different kind of way that was evoking more of the spirit rather than like realism and that sort of thing, to really push these like dreamlike qualities, and also just to allow my mind to wander and expand and really experiment with these ideas and how some of these animals can kind of look in the future, or maybe within these dream worlds and that sort of thing. So for this work specifically, at the heart of it, like, I'll be completely honest, I absolutely love eating caribou, and I want to be able to eat caribou for the rest of my life, and I hope that future generations will be able to eat caribou. So I'd like to raise more awareness about this and kind of like promote like what there will be in the future, so that they actually are there. Because that's one of the biggest parts about Indigenous futurism specifically, is imagining our culture and things in the future, and really trying to place that in a tangible way that it could eventually become that, right? And to never lose sight of our core values and our spiritual beliefs, and also being really understanding of other cultures and being respectful about that, so that we can all kind of grow together. Because I hope that in the future that all of our cultures are still here, the languages are still spoken, and we can continue to eat the great food that we eat right now.
Awesome. I was on that note, I was actually, a friend of mine had dropped by, and she was like, "Oh, I'm on my way home." No, I was like, "Just stay and listen." But I said to her, when you were showing the caribou, I said, "Oh, it's like, I have to let you know I'm the daughter of a butcher." So I was like, 6 shoulders, what? Yeah. I was thinking about all the things you could do with the extra bones, and
Exactly.
It's like my whole mind was like going like, oh my God, like it's going to be so great in the future. We'll have more, more out of one caribou than we used to have. And so how that feeds the village more. And so it's like, yeah, really, really thoughtful of you to to make a bigger feast plate for people in the
Exactly.
future.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the back of my mind, like
Yeah.
because in Indigenous culture we use everything from the animal, right? So like how would their antlers be used? Would they be more durable? You know, being a fan of like, you know, comics and that sort of thing, like I can't get out of my mind that eventually the antlers would be as tough as like adamantium, like with
Yeah,
what Wolverine's bones are made out of now.
I'm totally thinking that.
Almost indestructible, right? So yeah.
I know. I've been actually watching. I have my granddaughter over on the weekend and my niece. So I conned my daughter into giving me her Disney Channel membership. So I've been going through all the Marvel and now Star Wars. But I was thinking when I was looking at your work there, how you've really nailed it on the futurisms with the hunting and fishing. And I mean, you both really have, like, the idea of matriarchs in the future floating through like beautiful landscapes and sharing their stories, their poetic stories of the land and the animals to their children. For you, Kayla, and for you, Casey, thinking about the hunters, you know, that are out there, like, yeah, you know, they're not only going to have more meat and more materials for tools, the tools they will make will also become really interesting and refined as well, which I actually see a lot in your physical sculptural work. Like I've noticed you really have a deep connection with natural materials, and it's, I don't know, the both of you really have, for each of your practices, have really infused your spirits into your work in a way that is so uplifting and so inspiring. And it just, again, makes me feel like Indigenous futurisms really are about us imagining a better world for us, because we've lived, you know, our ancestors have lived through a lot of darkness. And as future ancestors, we're witnessing so much trauma that we want to see a different future, and to see cities disappearing and disintegrating while cultural elements shine and rise up. It kind of feels like a just a brighter tomorrow, right? And so really thank you for that. I have people sending me messages, but I want to actually say that with Q&A, I'd really like to save it for later, because really would like to keep building the conversation a little bit more and deeper into your work and your connections to your work. And so see what kind of, there's a couple of things here. Did your artwork evolve in the process of developing in AR? I think that kind of is answered in the works that you've shown. But maybe how can Indigenous artists reinforce their knowledge systems in immersive experiences? I think you've both touched on that, but if you want to kind of go deeper into that conversation with me, that would be really wonderful. Really like to hear what you both think about, you know, other artists that are either already doing immersive work, but possibly, you know, the up and coming emerging artists that are starting to learn and become aware of utilizing this. How would you see your work and others in this field helping to reinforce and influence knowledge systems and immersive technologies and experiences?
You want to go first, Kayla?
Sure. Well, I think about like the current context of what we're all living through right now, and being so separated, like literally the most separated we've been as human beings and like, I don't know, history maybe. But I just think about immersive technology, how it can really, like, yes, we can't be together. However, this technology can also still teach us a lot about our culture and our roots in a creative way. So this is actually a conversation I've been having with a few other people, especially when it comes to social media. So I know this festival, like you go through Instagram and you can film, like the art pops up through your Instagram, right? In like a filter. And so even that storytelling element, like I think about how we spend so much time on these apps to communicate and stay connected with one another. But then when you bring in that like immersive experience within a social media app, like it kind of it almost decolonizes it in a way where, you know, you're bringing in oral history, you're bringing in story, you're bringing in that sense of connection. So because I find myself, like I had to cleanse my social media because I felt it was so much consume and not any mindfulness on like what I'm consuming, you know. And so yeah, I think Indigenous art, when it can be brought in that immersive experience, it makes it less about consuming something so fast, and it brings you back to your spirit, to that oral connection. And so that makes me excited to see how it grows within the future. Yeah, Casey, do you have anything to add? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like with immersive technology, one of the most fascinating things that I found about it in regards to our culture and our stories is that it's giving us a new platform, and a platform where just that you're able to be completely immersed in it, right? So it's this new and like highly engaging way of being able to tell our stories, like so much different than, you know, film or you know, graphic novels or something like that, where you have your concept or your story and you can put it right in front of someone. You could place someone within this world, like almost literally within the world, so that they're surrounded by it. They're not just viewing it on like a 2D platform, right? And then in addition to that, with the implementation of augmented reality, it's increasing the accessibility of this platform and within a 3D space and that sort of thing, because, you know, VR headsets are still, you know, pretty expensive, right? They're becoming more accessible, but there's you know, a certain amount of people that have them and that can enjoy that. Whereas with augmented reality, almost everyone has a cell phone. Almost everyone has a smartphone, and they're able to experience this in a different way. They're able to walk around it. They're able to become immersed in it in a different way. And I think that that's really important. And it just feels like liberating to have yet again another sort of platform and medium that we could work with in order to tell our stories and represent our culture.
Yeah, I think all of that you both have shared is just so like hitting the nail, right? Hitting the hammer with the nail. It really is. I think it's a natural process. We're all like, we've all come from places where storytelling is what kept us alive in the hardest of times, right? Like being in the for my people would be, we're in a longhouse for 10 months of the year sometimes, with the rains and, you know, and the thunderstorms and such on the coast, and everything's wet. So we're inside weaving. I don't know if you all noticed me at the prep time that I was rolling up a wool ball. I'm teaching a virtual weaving workshop with some family up in Mount Currie, and you know, it's just like getting so many metaphors even out of preparing the wool by putting it into a wool ball. And you know, and the first night I was doing it, they were rolling away. I was like, no. But you know, but it was like just thinking about the preparation, the steps that go in before we even weave. And that's what I'm thinking about when we're telling our stories. You know, 200 years ago, we didn't take that time to do that. We were observing. I mean, we did take time. We took more time to tell the stories. We observed everything, and then we came back into our lodges for the cold seasons, and we spent time together. and we found ways to communicate with one another, and storytelling evolved from there. And over time, we've watched the visual artists and other mediums across the arts start to evolve, and how, you know, at one point people would segregate them. So I'm a media artist, oh, I'm a dancer, you know, and now everything is immersed. And I think Indigenous people have always seen that it's just a big, good pot of fish stew we're putting together. Oh, let's add some of this and add some of that. And it turns into this beautiful feast, and it's a visual feast, and it's an audio feast. It's everything that we're all about, and that everybody in our community can have a part of it and feel a part of it. And I think that's what's really exciting about what's happening right now in the futurism genre with Indigenous people. Like, we're seeing visual artists go, I can't just, it's not enough for me to pick up my iPad and draw on it. I need it to jump out of something. I need it to appear somewhere. And I need to, you know, I think we've always all seen these things on the land, is what I'm saying. And to see your works, both of your works, coming alive in public spaces, I mean, it's so uplifting. And you know, when I walked around yesterday, there was just some random person looking over my shoulder, and she's like, is that what that thing does? Is that what that booth does? I was like, yeah, you just point your phone. And she's like, okay, now I'm actually going to interact with it. Because she had not even, she was just some random person I didn't know. And she was just coming out of the coffee shop. And I thought, you know, I went back to my 20-year-old self, and I thought, if I could only go back and visit you and say, don't worry, hang on, you know, like, you will see things like this on the land. And I'm sure that you both do too. And so I guess what I'd like to hear is a bit more about how trickster notions and storytelling, mixed with the Instagram filters and such, how all that encourages and inspires you in the work that you do. And yeah, just riff about it, I guess, because I love just how you both kind of roll with these ideas and thoughts.
You can go ahead, Kel.
Okay. Just every time I'm just waiting. I love that stew metaphor, by the way. It's like we're just cooking up these stews that's feeding everyone's souls right now through the arts. It's exciting. Yeah, so the question is, how do we have these trickster notions and I guess like oral stories within our work or within immersive technology? Is that right? Or yeah, okay. I mean, for myself, I feel like I'm still just getting into working with a lot of our stories. And so for me, I'm really grounded to, you know, stories from my nukum, my grandmother. And, you know, there's stories from the trap line, and some of them are really scary. And so when I hear them, like I relate them to the modern world we're living in right now. And I see notions of this, I guess not so much trickster stories, but lately the theme that keeps coming up to me when I look around the world today in this like modern society is this notion of, I won't say the name right now because it's nighttime, but like that cannibal spirit, you know, stories about that cannibal spirit where I'm from in northern Alberta. There's stories that are in my community. And so yeah, my grandmother told me some of them. And when I look around today, I just see that cannibal spirit within a lot of humans today, you know, like consuming without no mindfulness for giving back or having that reciprocity, and just taking for selfish reasons. And so I'm interested in exploring that within my art practice, because Indigenous culture, like, yes, we have all these good stories or trickster stories that teach us many lessons of what not to do, or how we should behave with the natural world, and our teachers. Like, these trickster stories teach us a lot. But then we also have these other stories of kind of like the darker side of how we are as human beings. And so I'm interested in that side too, because I feel like today, like, we're living in, the world's a little inside out right now. Things are a little backwards right now. Mother Earth is at her tipping point. And I think we're starting to see that with climate change. And even, Casey, what you're saying about the caribou herds and what's happening to them, being hopeful for a future for these animals. I just feel like within the arts, we can really share those stories and those prophecies that are already starting to happen. Like, we're seeing it right now. And something I just wanted to mention that kind of popped in my head while we were having this conversation this evening is my uncle. He told me this story when he was, going to ceremony in I think it was like early 90s, still like the big Motorola phones, like, like back in those times, the technology, there wasn't AR yet or anything. But he, like, an elder said that, one day the world will be covered in a web. And so, and that we would be able to communicate through that web, through glass. And that's what he saw, like through glass, like a phone, right? And so I remember my uncle telling me that story, and like I thought about it, like I've been thinking about that story more recently, and we're literally living that prophecy right now. We can speak through this web that's covering the earth and share knowledge with each other. And I feel like we have a choice. We can use this web to harm ourselves and the earth, or we can use this web to heal ourselves and the earth. And so I'm really interested in the healing. That's why I started an art page on a social media app. That's why I am so involved with like these social medias and connecting with people from all over the place to share that message of healing. And it makes me really excited because even just the network and community of Indigenous artists on Instagram is incredible. And so it's exciting to see how much technology can connect us and make that support system even stronger. So, less about capitalism and making it more accessible, for everyone to learn from. And so even like bringing back our trade systems through the arts, like that's what I'm interested in too. So I think there's a lot that's going to happen in a short amount of time. And I'm excited to see how, as Indigenous people, how we continue to evolve through all these challenges and still make life beautiful and share our culture in new ways and new mediums. And so like even Indigenous film, I'm excited. Like, I feel like we're only just beginning, this is just the beginning of what we have to share as peoples. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Casey, if you want to comment a bit about that.
Awesome. Yeah, so like the accessibility aspect, to kind of like elaborate on or extend what Caleb was saying, like to be able to present our works or our ideas in a certain way that can make them more tangible and understandable for people, for other cultures and that sort of thing. Because I find that sometimes our cultures and our beliefs can be kind of confusing to some people, right? So like this is another medium that can kind of help with that understanding. And I really enjoy, Kayla, how you mentioned the both aspects of the storytelling, right? Like not all of our stories are happy-go-lucky, kind of themes, right? Like there's some very like dark themes within Indigenous culture as well. And those need to be presented also in order to kind of shape that balance, right? Because like everything is about balance, you know, and it's not something that we should like shun out. It's like those are important because that has to deal with like, you know, health, mental health, safety, all of that sort of stuff, so that we become more knowledgeable and wise about not only ourselves but our surroundings as well. And yeah, like with the filters and AR, there's numerous different ways that you can create within, you know, Spark AR specifically, right? There's numerous different types of filters that you could make. And one thing that I've been thinking about, and it's not really present within my culture, but mask making is present in a lot of people's cultures, especially like on the West Coast, right? So you can make a mask and have people wear that. So it kind of gives them a chance to understand that in a certain way. And I think that's really important as well. You know, there's that like, it promotes like empathy, more empathy and understanding of another person's culture, because you can kind of live it in a certain way, even if it's just like superimposed on your face or something like that, right? Or you could be present within these surroundings. You can actually see, you know, like the hummingbird that you made, Cease, or the huckleberry bush that Tracy made. There's some people that may never be able to see these things in real life, but they're able to see it within augmented reality. And the reach that it has as well. Like we have people tuning in from, you know, Mexico and New York. They're able to experience our cultures in a different way as well. And it provides like a better understanding, but there's also this like unity aspect that sort of happens at the same time, right? There's a better understanding of what our cultures sort of encompass. You could see the differences and the similarities. So it has the power to bring that network together and make it stronger.
Wow. You two, yeah, my friend that's here, my friend Tareen, just gonna do a shout out. She's one of our unofficial matriarchs of the IM4. But she was like, these are smart people. I was like, yeah, very smart. You're both very, very smart and wise, and you really hear your ancestors speaking through you. And you, Kayla, sharing that prophecy. Oh, like, you know, those are important teachings, that everything that you both shared tonight has really, you know, I think brought in insights that, you know, maybe 20 years ago, even though this technology existed, people weren't using it, but we sure wanted it. We sure wanted to reach there. And now we are reaching those stars, and we are doing the things that help other people see our visions. And I think that's the most magical thing about these futurisms, is that we all have these ideas just churning, and these teachings that have been flowing through us. And to be able to bring that together with technology, one of the leaders from my community who's done a lot of work over the years once said about computers that they're the important tool of this time period, that we've had very important tools throughout all of our timeline of being who we are and where we are. And then to see now that computers and laptops and devices are all combining in that web, you know, that natural web and the digital web, and they're really bringing those stories out for people. So I think there's some Q and A's I'd like to go through. I'll just read a couple here.
I was gonna say we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say we already took some questions, so which were awesome. So thank you everyone for participating
Great.
on the chat.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. So I was gonna say thank you, Cease, Casey, Kayla. What we're gonna do now, since we're going, you know, we're getting to the close of the event, we're gonna play a closing DJ set again by the same DJ as before.
Okay.
And so we're gonna listen to the DJ set, and then I'll come back and say goodbye to all you. So DJ Wolfcaller, my colleague Candy is going to play that DJ set in a second.
And can I just, before we go, can I just make a couple of acknowledgements that weren't made?
Yeah,
Or can we do that at the very end?
After the DJ set, yeah, we'll come back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on mute.
If I wanted you, girl. If I wanted you, if I wanted you. If I wanted you.
That was wonderful. What a great way to wrap up the event. Cez, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was asked to just add a few acknowledgements. We'd like to do a shout out to Tim Rolls and Emily Carr. And we'd really like to thank the Vancouver Mural Festival for the invitation to curate Indigenous artists and winter arts, and the Vancouver Public Library for hosting this beautiful webinar talk. And thank you, Ben Cooper and Tim Rolls, working with IM4 and the artists for the support to develop the AR works. IM4 partners Emily Carr University, Western Diversification, and Creative BC. And I also want to do a shout out to our lead matriarch, Miss Loretta Todd, who I noticed was typing in some comments. Thank you. Thank you. Chinquementomi to Loretta Todd for envisioning this futurism's future with all of us here, and for the strength to persevere with so many hurdles to bring us to this place we are now. And again, a big, huge thank you to the artists for coming and sharing your words and your work process. And Jorge and Candy, a big shout out to you both. You've been amazing. We've all been on earlier and they've got to wrap things up now. So that's all I wanted to say. And this was the highlight of my month. So good. Such a great talk.
Thank you so
big
much.
Hug,
for those
virtual hugs to you all.
Virtual hugs. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for those kind words. And thank you, Cez, Casey, Kayla, for generously sharing your work with us today and all your thoughts. Thanks to my colleague Candy, who's in the background helping things run smoothly. Now, you're welcome to leave the stage. I'm just gonna talk about future events. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Quite much.
And now, if you really like this event, I really encourage all of you to check out events on the Vancouver Public Library's Facebook page, which is the easiest place to find out about upcoming events. Or you can subscribe to our email newsletter. Those are easy ways to find out about stuff coming up. Now, because we are a public institution, our job is to do programs that work for you. So your feedback is really important for us to get better and better at doing programming. So we're going to put a link in the chat. It's a feedback survey. It takes you a minute to fill out. Just leave us some notes on what you thought about this event. On that note, we have two great events coming up tomorrow. One is related to this series for Winter Arts. It is a lunchtime workshop on how to get started as an AR creator with a very famous artist, Nancy Baker Cahill. And so that's going to be amazing. That's a lunchtime thing tomorrow at 12. And then the second thing that I want to tell you about is happening tomorrow as well at 7 p.m. That is to celebrate Black History Month. And it's a performance and a conversation with award-winning musician Carrie Wendell McClelland. And he's going to be talking about the music that freed slaves brought to Canada as they fled slavery in the US. So again, that's at 7 p.m. tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. And my colleague Candy's going to put the link there in the chat. And so that's it for tonight. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to do the awkward wave and disappear slowly, but we're going to keep this event open for a few minutes and with a slide, just so that you can click on all the links and connect with each other and share things on the chat. So we're going to keep it open for about 5 minutes after I leave, but that's it from me, and thank you all for joining us. Goodbye.